Hey guys, back this time to chat a little conference championships for NFL. Coming off a nice week, 7-3 last week, with us also going 9-3 the week before, so 16-6 on this NFL stretch. Going to give you a game. Going to discuss the Saints Rams game in this video. I'm also going to give you some two player props I like from this game. So you can get three total bets from this video. Saints Rams line opened, excuse me, at 56.5 for a total, with the Saints minus 3.5. Quickly went to 3, but then right back to 3.5. And I also saw the total jump up to 57 for a little while, but now it's back to 56.5. I'll tell you what, at 3.5, I would be surprised if the line closed at this. I would expect to see a decent amount of Rams backers come in here at 3.5. It's a very favorable number there. Now, I'll tell you this before I go into the bet I'm going to make, or the side I like here. The Rams getting 3.5 is an interesting spot here, and this is because if you break this down from a few different spots, the one being, well, these two teams played earlier in the year, right? So they play earlier in the year. The game is a complete disaster for the Rams in the second quarter. The Rams at one point trailed by 3 touchdowns in the second quarter. Some interesting decisions by McVay early on in that quarter. I think he went for it on a 4th and 4 on the Saints 16 after a Saints turnover. Really could have added momentum to the Rams by kicking a field goal, taking the lead. He decides to go for it, doesn't get it. Saints drive down the field and score a touchdown. Then the Rams go right back up the field again. This time they miss a 50-yard field goal. Saints go right back down and score another touchdown. First play, Rams get the ball after that is an interception from Jared Goff, followed by another Saints touchdown. Just a very weird stretch for the Rams in that second quarter. Argument could be made, and while you can't take score out of the equation, argument could be made, the Rams outplayed the Saints the other 3 quarters of that game. Now, I get it. It doesn't really matter. The final score is what matters. But here's what I'm taking from that game. I'm taking from that game the fact that the Rams, despite McVay making poor decisions, despite one of the better kickers in the league in Zerline missing the kick, despite Goff with a lot of momentum, maybe feeling a little pressured, threw a pick in a tough situation. Despite all that, this was a 3-point game with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, albeit a Rams bringing an all-out blitz to stop what they envisioned was going to be the run or a short pass. Play broke down and Michael Thomas was wide open, deep for a 72-yard touchdown pass, which brought the game to 10. And ultimately, obviously, the Saints covered there. Big issue I have with this game is, first of all, this is going to be my least favorite bet of both of these games, for a few different reasons. But 3.5 is a strong number with the Rams. And I know you're going to get some public money there. You're going to get some maybe even quote unquote sharp money on the Rams there at 3.5. For me, I could really give a shit either way about square versus sharp money for this game. 3.5 is a big number for me with the Rams. This is a team that's proven if they go down big, they can come back. This is a team that has a better offense than the Saints. This is a team that you could argue defensively has better players than the Saints. Maybe they haven't played up to par. But keep in mind, at the beginning of this year, the Rams signed a bunch of defensive players to be in this position that they're in right now. Aaron Donald, Marcus Peters, some of the extra guys in that secondary, Ndamukong Suh's, on that front line as well. This is why they signed all those players, to be in the position they are in now. Small underdog here. Not saying the Rams are going to win. I'm betting the number here, guys, and the number I'm betting is 3.5. Don't like this game at all at 3. 2.5, it's not going to flip over and say, "Hey, I'll bet the Saints." I'm betting the number here, 3.5. I can't imagine this ever goes to 4. If it does, I'll happily take it. But again, 3.5 is the number I'm betting. I like the Rams a lot in that spot. Again, better offense, arguably better defense. I get the whole Drew Brees thing at home, 6-1 at home. In his playoff career, he's just not the Drew Brees of old. The way the Saints came out in that Philly game was still startling as well. Also, Dallas, one of the best teams against the run. I know the Saints are good against the run as well. You'll hear about that all week as well. The Rams' offensive line pushed Dallas back all game long. I'm not going to say it's going to happen here with the Saints, but I'm just saying that it did happen in the Dallas game against a very good run-stopping front for Dallas. And C.J. Anderson, who was probably eating a few muffins 2 months ago on his couch, is now rushing for 100 yards, seemingly weekly for the Rams. So, I don't think it matters who you throw behind there. I'm pretty confident my grandma could run behind that Rams offensive line right now. easily run for 70, 80 yards herself. So I'm confident. I'm confident in the 3.5 play. Again, my least favorite bet of the two games. I'm going to be more confident in my other game that I'm going to give you with the Pats Chiefs game. But ultimately, 3.5. Love the number. That's where I'm betting. So let me give you some props I like as well. Now, with the player props for these games, I could have went a few different routes. Obviously, Michael Thomas will be popular overplay. My issue is his total is 98.5 now. Last week, again, it was 84.5. I saw it climb 86.5, and still he crushed the over there. 98.5 is not a good number. It's not a favorable number. I know that a lot of people will just be riding that Michael Thomas train blindly, and it could hit. But again, I'm a numbers guy. I'm looking for proper numbers. That is not a number I like. Alvin Kamara's prop isn't bad either, but again, not number I like. Number I really like here. So Drew Brees, the ultimate, ESPN. ESPN just loves to juggle this guy's balls all the time. Any opportunity they get, they just love to talk so good about Drew Brees. Look, I have a lot of respect for him, but at the end of the day, I'm looking at a prop here of 303.5 passing yards. That is a very high number. Now, when I did the video last week, I told you guys I favored his over at 290.5 against the Philly defense that gave up 300 yards in 4 of their last 5 with the lone time they did not, being against Josh Johnson, a guy that should be playing in flag football leagues, most certainly not the NFL. So I don't even count that. But down the stretch, Drew Brees is throwing for over 303 yards, or I guess you could say at this point 304 yards, once in his last 6 games. He's actually only gone over 204 passing yards twice in his last 6. This is definitely Sean Payton realizing, hey, look, I got an aging quarterback. I got a great group of young running backs. Let's run the ball. Let's establish our offensive line. And then let's keep other offenses off the field. The Saints are very content with running the ball. If you notice, they did it a lot against Philly, especially in that second half, despite being down. I mean, that they practically held the ball the entire third quarter. Now, granted, I know there was a lot of penalties in there, extended drives. But ultimately, this team is they are very content with running the ball. They have no issue with that. And you can very well run the ball against the Rams. So this is a very big number for me, especially since I don't know if it's that Drew Brees is tired. Either way, 300 yards has not exactly been the norm for him over his last 6. Again, only twice out of his last 6 with 204 yards, not even going over that number, 4 of his last 6. Again, this is even if you look at the last game between the two of these two teams, and you say, oh well, Drew Brees threw for I think it was 346 yards. I'll easily bet this over. He'll do that again. It needs to be noted that again, with about 4 minutes left in the game, Drew Brees was sitting at about 368 yards, and it was a 3rd and 7 or 362 yards, whatever. And it was a 3rd and 7, and they opted to run, a play where the Rams completely broke down on defense, and Michael Thomas was left wide open for a 72-yard touchdown. Again, the Saints get another first down there. They could practically run the rest of the clock out, or nearly the rest of the clock out, with no absolute need to pass at all. That was the last play of the game, and again, it pumped Brees' passing stats for the game. But I honestly, without that, he would have been well under. This number is about 15, 20 yards too high. Could he go over? Of course he could. I just game script and game flow definitely I'd indicate this to be this prop to be about 15 to 20 yards too high. I understand. How do you root for a game with Drew Brees? How do you watch a game with Drew Brees and root for him not to pass? But keep in mind, at that number, you can still root for him to pass for XYZ reasons. That is a big number for him to go over, especially when you consider they scored 45 points against the Rams the first time, and he barely made it over with 4 minutes left on a practically game-ending 7-yard touchdown pass. So definitely liking the Brees under 303.5 passing yards. If you wait that out, you might be able to get it more. You'll obviously get, I assume, a lot of Brees backers thinking he's going to crush that over, but it just hasn't been the case recently, and I'll ride that under. Last but not least, with bets for this game, this would be my favorite bet of the 3. So Brandon Cooks kind of almost become a ghost on that Rams offense. Haven't really heard much about him over the past few games. Even over the course of the season, he had a strong start to the year, then kind of faded out a bit. I know he was injured one game. Great home road splits where he's really good at home, not as good on the road. But I will tell you, when I'm looking at how this game's going to break down, if you're somebody that's going to say, well, I want to bet the Rams and I want to see, I want to see the Rams win this game. So for me, the only way the Rams are going to consistently push that offensive line back is by getting those safeties to buy into the fact that a receiver like Brandon Cooks is going to be throwing the ball deep. Now, when I look at the other receivers on this team, I see Robert Woods, I see Josh Reynolds, and the Rams barely ever throw to tight ends. They run a lot of these 3 receiver sets. Sean McVay loves that formation. They just kind of line them up in different spots on the field. But Josh Reynolds, Texas A&M kid, filling in for Cooper Kupp. He's been much of a decoy. Don't get me wrong, he gets a few targets a game, and he could, I guess, bust one. But for the most part, he's been a bit of a decoy. Robert Woods is their 10 to 15 yard safety net downfield. Not a big play threat for the most part. And Jared Goff loves to go to him when he's in a tight spot. Very, very trustworthy possession receiver. Brandon Cooks is their big play threat, and I feel like in this spot, first of all, he went over this number, 69.5 receiving yards, easily against the Saints the first time. I just feel like this is a spot where the Rams this is where Cooks is going to make his money for them, or has the opportunity to anyway. They're going to take a few shots deep, because you got to keep those safeties honest, especially when you're running the ball, especially when you want to run the ball as much as the Rams want to run the ball. Got to keep the safeties honest. Over the top to Cooks a few times. I could even see, where they do a play action, maybe even fake a reverse, and there's Cooks down the field 20, 30 yards, easy completion, whether it's on the sidelines, across the middle. Some things of note here, that when Brandon Cooks is targeted 8 times or more, when he's been targeted 8 times or more this season, he has gone over this number 8 times out of 9. Again, we talk about game script. This is a game that's going to require Jared Goff's arm. How well he's going to do is going to, I think, really be the beneficial factor on whether the Rams can actually pull out this win or not. But, the opportunities will be there for Brandon Cooks. This is a very spotty secondary. This is, statistically, it's one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. They give up a ton of passing yards, and Brandon Cooks should be the biggest beneficiary of that, because he's the big play guy for the Rams. So that's definitely where my head's at. Brandon Cooks over 69.5 receiving yards. And if you're somebody that loves the Rams in this spot, I just don't see how he doesn't go over this and they win. Because I can't picture a scenario where the Rams push back the Saints all game without threatening a deep ball here and there to keep those linebackers at least a step back, or safeties a step back, with the only true real deep threat being Brandon Cooks. Okay, so just a final recap. I got the Rams plus 3.5. I love the number in this spot. Drew Brees under 303.5 passing yards, and Brandon Cooks over 69.5 receiving yards. Playing the numbers here, guys. Again, numbers guide. Numbers most important part. These are 3 numbers I like. 3 of my favorite numbers from this game. I will have a video for you on the Chiefs and Patriots as well, with a few props. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel. Again, we've been hot, 16-6 over the last 22 NFL plays for the playoffs. So again, if you enjoyed the video, drop a comment below. Love to respond to the comments. And thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for the Pats Chiefs video.